Hello all you LEGO fans, it is 2Bricks back in with another video, and today's one is an interesting one that is kind of a new type of video that I haven't really done before, which is I really like these two sets, and what I want to do is destroy at least one of them and make it into something entirely new. So if you guys are familiar with the reception of the Boba Fett's throne room set here, it was not well received among the community, and I think that's a little unfair because it is advertised as Boba Fett's throne room, not Boba Fett's palace. So the size of it is, I think, perfectly reasonable for what it's trying to depict. And I think overall it's a nice set. It looks good from most angles. It's got some good play features, and I think it's been unfairly maligned. I also really like the figure selection too. So my goal here is to kind of combine what I think are two really pretty excellent sets, especially the Slave One here, Boba Fett's starship, is a really nice kind of miniaturized take on the ship where it does everything you need it to do, but not at a huge cost. So that's really cool. And I thought it was a shame that we got two sets here that are both from The Mandalorian Season 2, but we didn't get any kind of bigger Book of Boba Fett stuff yet. So I thought it'd be fun to rip this apart and to add it to a larger mock of Boba Fett's palace and make it where you can reenact a lot of the scenes from the show, one of which is of course the reclaiming of Slave One from the underside of the palace, which is something you can't really replicate using this scene right here, and to add in a lot of the other kind of iconic Jabba's palace type of elements to it that I think would be really cool. So I'm going to go away and build that now for you. By the time that you're seeing this, the instructions for this new set that I'm creating will be available. So make sure to check out rebrickable.com and look at the selection of models that I have there, including this one, which is going to be labeled as a modification of this set. So you'll be able to use all of the parts that you have from this and put them into the new one should you decide to build it. So yeah, let's dive in and see what I came up with. All right, you guys, so I'm back. It's been approximately 3 days since the camera cut that you just witnessed, and this is what I came up with. This set actually, I'm kind of overwhelmed thinking about it because it's something that I just started off as a kind of a whim to see if I could just kind of make something different out of the set, and I ended up really having a lot of thoughts and a lot of feelings about LEGO as a whole, and about the nature of play sets and things like that, and the way that the direction that LEGO is headed in. And I'll share those thoughts with you guys at the end, because I'm sure that you're anxious to see the actual castle and all of the features and stuff that I was able to put into it. So this is the quote-unquote boring side, where it just looks like Jabba's palace from the exterior, and then if you flip it around, it is a full complete entire play set here. So you can see the interior is absolutely jam-packed with detail, and I will go through and take you through this kind of meticulously through every room in the castle, and we'll give you a full kind of overview, and I'll show you some of the play patterns and things that I envisioned as well. There's definitely a lot going on in this set, so I'm super excited to show you that. So yeah, I guess we'll kind of get into that, and stick around at the end if you want to kind of hear my thoughts and my ideas. I actually have some positive feelings and ideas that I would like to share with the LEGO community if they happen to be listening, or the LEGO design community. And yeah, hopefully that's something that you guys are interested in hearing. So yeah, let's just dive in and take a look up close at all the different features of this set. All right, so I'm going to start you off down here at the bottom left-hand side of the castle, and we're going to look at the classic entrance, because while this is a Book of Boba Fett mainly kind of themed castle here, I really wanted to have at least a few nods to the castle's different time periods throughout the movies, and of course most specifically Return of the Jedi, which is when we first saw the castle. So basically I imported the door from the set. It's essentially unchanged, including the mounting here and how that all attaches. What I did change was the point here where it has this little latch where you can open the door and you can kind of push the droid in, and it catches, and it's on a little window right there, and then when you push that in, the door will fall down in dramatic fashion. But yeah, I wanted to make sure it lifted up high enough for C-3PO and R2 to make their famous entrance as they did at the beginning of Return of the Jedi. And since we have the little kind of security eyeball droid, I think that makes sense. And so that entrance right there will take you into a kind of multi-purpose space for play-wise. It's the Rancor pit, but it's also kind of the main entrance to the castle, and it also kind of doubles up as a secret entrance back here, which is where the play really begins. So let me flip this back around. And here you can see Boba and Fennec figuring out how they're going to get the Slave One back and what their plan is. And Fennec cuts a hole in the grate here using a special kind of a super advanced welding torch, it looked like. And she just cuts a hole and they go right on in through the grate there. So this grate piece was attached as part of the roof of the original set, so I thought that would make a perfect sewer grate to cut. And then, you know, you can just, obviously Boba and Fennec have to crawl in, but there's room enough for them to do that. So then once they get inside, then they now have access to be able to come through this little space right here. And then you can see that there are doors and windows right here, and that's basically the entranceway into the hangar. So Boba can make his way over here. Let me just clear out the Rancor for a second, and I'll move the skiff. And so Boba Fett is able to come in and into the room where Slave One is, and then you can boost Slave One, put him in there, and make your escape. And the reason that I included the skiff is because if you look at the scene in the show when they steal the Slave One, on their way out they actually knock over a skiff, and I thought that that would be a really fun addition play-wise to be able to have that in there and have your guards kind of mount a defense and have a little kind of shootout between the Slave One and the skiff on its way out. And so yeah, I thought that was a really fun kind of thing. I'll show you the skiff up closer later on, but that's basically just, yeah, the place for the bad guys to make their attack. So this is the official set that recently came out, and I wanted to make sure that, at least with a little bit of negotiation, it would fit all the way into this space. And that was kind of one of my primary motivators for wanting to make this set, is to see if I could combine the throne room and the Slave One. So I think that worked out really well. All right, so that's one play scenario. So say they don't want to come in, Boba and Fennec, they don't want to come in and retake the Slave One. Say they've already done that. Now they want to come back and they want to take the throne room for themselves. So what do? They go back to their trusty grate and they come up this set of brown stairs right here. It's kind of hard to see with the lighting in here. Sorry, there's not a lot of light getting in there, but there's a set of brown stairs right here which takes you up to this platform, and that takes you up to a ladder, and that ladder will then take you up to the next level where you can see the kitchen. And the kitchen here is where the General Grievous wannabe droid is preparing food and stuff for the residents of the castle. So here you can see him. Let me just take him out and give you a closer look at him. So he comes equipped with his 6 arms so that he can kind of mount an attack. And I've given him just kind of a bunch of different accessories. He's got like a fork, a machete, a meat cleaver, spoon, cup, and a bottle, which he can all try to smash onto Boba's head. And then Fennec can just come in here with her little kind of magic tool once again and just kind of slice his neck like she does in the show, and you can just pop his head off to indicate that he's been taken out. And so yeah, you can just leave him there in the kitchen once you're done with that. And I'll just show you the kitchen here. I did try to detail it up, again, using as many of the pieces from the set as possible. So we have a little kind of preparation space up here at the front with a countertop with a pot, a couple of faucets back there, and some kind of grill details that could be potentially, you know, a grill top or a stove or something like that. And then I have these archway pieces used back here to show what could be ovens, potentially stone ovens, or they could be shelving space. And then there's a little stool for someone to sit while they're prepping, and cartons for storing different food items, and as well as some kind of jars, and they could be, you know, drinks back there as well. And that's what's in this kind of central larger building here that you can see from the front, the one that is right next to the main throne room. So this is the room that has the kitchen in it, and it's got the same kind of styling of these kind of the wooden supports that go around there and create a little bit of space for light to get in, although obviously the setup that I have right now doesn't really allow for any light to come in and illuminate the interiors of this space, which is unfortunate. But I included some of the larger dome pieces here from the recent sets that we've been getting, like Tatooine related sets. I think those work absolutely perfectly to top off the top of those buildings, and I'm really happy with that. So once they take out the guard in here, the chef droid, poor guy was just trying to do his job, you know. Boba and Fennec can then proceed up this short ladder here, and they're into the throne room to take out Bib Fortuna and retake the throne. So there you go. Now we're into the main throne room here. And I just basically, once again, I just imported the throne that we got, which is this whole section here. And I modified it so that you could add in the feature of the opening and closing Rancor pit. So let me show you how that works, and then we'll take a closer look at the interior details of this throne room set, here. So this is the little lever, the little actuator, and if you pull that, you simultaneously will set off the trap, and then begin to bring the seat forward, and then the seat will come all the way forward. So there's a little bit of a delayed action to that, which I really like. So you can get the trapdoor to go first, and then, you know, if you pull gently, and then you get the throne to come forward so you can see what's going on. And you know, if you're really lucky, you might be able to knock Bib Fortuna off of his throne down into the Rancor pit, which would be a pretty fitting ending for him. And then I've also added another droid character in here, in addition to the kitchen droid, which is the previously known as the torture droid, but now it's Boba's translator, his protocol droid, as voiced by the incredible Matt Berry in the show. And he's the very kind of proper British droid who tells Boba what to do all the time, and Boba ignores his advice. And so yeah, I just decided that this set really needed a version of him. It's very, very basic. I try to make it as close to minifig scale as possible, but you know, he's just got his eyes and the kind of indication of the red on his face there, and the one red stripe down the side of his body, and then just using very simple parts, trying to capture that as best as I could. So there he is. I think he makes a nice little addition off to the side there. And then also in the back here, we have a spot to put Captain Solo in his carbonite form. I want to say this is a replica, since at this point in the story Han Solo has been freed, but I figured you can't have a Jabba's palace / Boba's palace and not have that in there. So behind the throne, I actually included the spit and the kind of with the roasting chickens that was from the set. It's not really accessible anymore. It's just kind of tucked away back there, but I think that that's still a cool thing to have. And when you're building it, obviously you can just place it back there, and it's kind of stuck at that point, but I think that's fine. You can see that it's back there. And then this is just a little the hookah that Jabba the Hutt would use, which Lego included in the set, so I just put it off to the side there. I think that's a nice touch. And then you can kind of see, if I switch around to the front view here, the way that this is constructed, these are opening panels, so if you do want to get a little bit of quick access here to some of the back interior stuff, say something falls off and goes back here, you can just reach in there and get it. And plus it does, again, let in a little bit of additional light, so it kind of changes up the feel of the throne room there, which I really like. But yeah, you can just close those up really easily, and that creates the kind of front shape there. So yeah, I think that all works out really nicely, and I'm very happy with it. So off to the side here of the throne room, you can see that there is a little ladder that is on a clip, and you can kind of position that however you want. But it is the ladder that is designed to give access to the top level. So let's take a look at that. All right, so here is the top level, and I try to make it a really kind of airy, breezy space like it is in the show. Lots of kind of open area at the top here for light to get in. Obviously I have the kind of dome finish here on the top, and I tried to kind of cut that off in a clean way where it feels like you just kind of took a slice out of the palace there. But I have a little area off to the side here, which is just for Boba to place his gear when he's not using it. So it's just a very simple couple of cylinders and a bar there. And then I've placed inside of Boba's helmet, I placed one of these studs that can just hold onto the helmet, and then a spot there for his blaster as well. And then here he is in his Bacta tank. So this can open fully while it's in place. So you just pop it open from the side here, and it hinges just like it does in the show, and you can get Boba in and out really easily. And it has a little control panel off to the side and some really accurate detailing in here with the greebling and the little this little tank off to the side. And even in the back there, I included a little tank that was something that was back there in the show that I wasn't exactly sure what it was, but it was back there, so I thought I'd include it, as well as a tiny little bench in case you wanted to have a guest sitting and waiting for Boba to be done with his treatment. You could place them back there. This roof comes off fairly easily. I mean, it's not designed to come off, quote unquote, but you know, it's just attached with these studs here, so it makes it a lot easier for you to just gain access if you want to place figures around in the background there. So you can just kind of place that back on pretty easily. So there you go. there is Boba's Bacta tank. I hope he's dreaming about something pleasant. And then moving back over to this section of the castle here, so once you go past the kitchens, you can see that there is a entrance here with a ladder up to this tall tower where I've just created, I basically just filled in the space with what I had available. So the two little seats and the table that were included in the set as part of that little kind of seating area off to the side, I've just put those here on the first level of the guard tower. You can obviously place your Gamorrean guard out here, you know, to either keeping watch, or he can be up in the tower, or he can be like, you know, grabbing some equipment from up here. So I also included Bib Fortuna's staff. I just placed it up here to fill out the kind of weapons rack that I had with some leftover parts. And then I also have this binoculars here that's attached to a single clip as well. And then up at the top level is just some detailing there to get the look that I want for the tower, where it kind of has that nice spiral or kind of fanning out, tapering kind of look, where it comes out and kind of flares, and then it has that little gray area and then the dome on top. And I think that all looks really nice. And then just the simplest way that I could figure out how to attach this, again, trying to use as many of the parts from the set as possible. And so I'm using the clips that were included and some jumper plates as well to get that in there. And yeah, I think that just works out really well. I mean, it's a guard tower. It does what it needs to do. I even included these pieces that came with the set as these kind of spike deterrents in case anybody ever tried to climb the tower there. They would have some spikes in the way. And there are some kind of details like that. It's kind of hard to see on the matte paintings and whatever kind of CG models they have of the palace from Star Wars. They do have some kind of deterrent like that. But yeah, it was kind of hard to tell exactly. But yeah, that's that. It's pretty simple, and I think it makes good use of the space of what is there, and I think that the tower itself looks really nice. So going back down here to the ground, I just included another little tower off to the side, because when you look at the palace, there are these tiny little kind of cylindrical towers kind of dotted around all over the place, and there's one that's kind of near the hangar bay, and I just thought that was a fun inclusion to place that in there, kind of relative to where the hangar bay is. It's actually sort of accurate, the layout of all of this. I think it works really well in terms of like filling out the world of the show, and also the palace. So down here we can see I just put Mando off to the side because he's not really part of the story, but he can still be in it as he was in the show. But you know, he comes with the Slave 1 set here, so I figured I'd just stick him in here in this diorama and let him just figure out how he wants to participate. And then I have one little kind of dead plant off to the side here, and while I'm here I'll just give you a look at the kind of exterior details. So lots of rock work all around. Obviously I used the slopes that made up in the official set. The slopes made up kind of the body of this main throne room section, and I obviously integrated those all into here to get the height I needed to fit Slave 1 underneath. And then just kind of continue that design all the way through. There are many, many more slopes in here than were included in the original set, just so you know. So it's not like you can just buy the set and just have all of these ready to go. Obviously I had to add a lot of bulk. And I really like the way that I kind of achieved the color scheme out here, where it looks like there's sort of rust dripping down and maybe some wear and tear and some broken and chipped stonework down here where it has that kind of discoloration. And then using all the light gray pieces that were included in the set as part of this kind of concrete base. You can kind of imagine a foundation was poured over the rock to give a solid base to build the palace on. So I think that gives it a nice kind of authentic look, and it's something I probably wouldn't have thought to do if I had just been building this from scratch. I probably just would have continued this dark tan all the way up. So forcing myself to use the pieces in the set actually did give some fun kind of creative little kind of design choices that I normally wouldn't do. So another example is like using these slope pieces down here to represent kind of the build up of the sand dunes, you know, kind of coming up to the edge of the rock work. So yeah, I really like how all that turned out. And then that kind of brings us back around to the main gate. And oh, I forgot to mention I included the blaster turret here as well, which is just a defense in case people come around that you don't want to be in your palace. So that about does it for the kind of main exterior tour here. Let me give you a look at the Rancor. So I've set it up here where Boba can ride the Rancor. I actually posted a tutorial to my Instagram for how to do this. It's actually really simple. It just relies on a string piece wrapped around Boba's waist and then kind of pinned in to either side of the Rancor's shoulders. And then he has this little harness, or the reins made out of a chain. so it looks very authentic to the show. And it even allows him to hold onto his blaster while he's holding onto the Rancor's reins. So yeah, I think this turned out absolutely great. But let me just remove all of that so that you can see that the Rancor indeed does fit into the Rancor pit. I have dead Bib Fortuna down in here right now. But yeah, you can place the Rancor here into the back of the pit, as you would want to see. And then if I place an unfortunate Thielen Dancer, I think is her name, or Thiela, I'm not sure. But yeah, if I place her there and I just pull the lever, down she goes right into the jaws of the Rancor, ready to be eaten. So yeah, I think this mechanism worked out really, really well. For as simple as it is, it's just relying on some technique under here and a couple of different attachment points to create that kind of delay for the door coming out first and then the throne. But I think it's really, really effective, and I'm a big fan. So that pretty much gives you the entire overview of this castle. It's a huge playset, and it's something that I'm really, really excited about. You know, the version of me who would have wanted this is like 12 years old and would have absolutely lost his mind having this as a playset. So for those of you out there who decide to go ahead and get the instructions and build this for yourself, I really hope that whoever you give it to ends up loving it just as much as I do. And something I wanted to show you guys really quickly is if you happen to have yourself a Jabba the Hutt figure from any of the previous series that we've gotten, or sets that we've gotten of Jabba's palace, and you want to be able to convert the throne here, all you have to do is strip everything off of the top of the throne room here until you have just these plates, and then I have you add a couple of elements back in, and then add just these 4 additional pieces here, 1, 2, 3, 4, to just accommodate your Jabba the Hutt figure. So let me just let's pull the stage forward there, place Jabba on there, and then he fits really nicely, and there's enough clearance for the stage to still come forward and for his head to fit out of there. So it works out just great. And I just have him holding the hookah that was previously off to the side. So yeah, and there's enough space in there. There's I left a spot here for your Slave Leia minifigure if you want to add that, and there's also a little space in the front here where you can add his little lizard monkey. I forgot the name of that guy. It'll come back to me later, I'm sure. But yeah, and then the trapdoor, obviously you can then use it for either Luke Skywalker or Ula, the dancing girl. And then you've basically just done the conversion to Jabba's palace. Everything else is basically the same. There's no real need to change anything. Presumably the Bacta tank was here before. Obviously Jabba can't fit in it, but maybe, you know, I don't know, fellow criminals like to rent time in the healing bubbles. So there you go. So really easy and simple, and just keep the extra pieces for the throne off to the side somewhere. Stick them in a little container until you want to convert it back to Bib/Boba's palace. And other than that, there you are. So just 4 additional pieces is all that's required for the conversion, and I think that works out just great. So I just wanted to give you guys a up-close look here at the translator droid. I think he's really fun. The roller skate piece there making making it look like he's got the eyes, and just the shape of this kind of tall cylindrical head. I think that works out really well. And then just these legs using the relatively new clip and bar pieces here with the bottom here with the inkwells to attach to his ankles. I think that all just works out pretty fine, and it's a simple piece, but I think especially at a distance, definitely you get the idea of who this is supposed to be, and I think it's a good inclusion. And then of course here up close we have the chef droid, so you can really appreciate all the different the details and the way that his arms are all attached here. Obviously you can't spin them up like General Grievous, but neither can the official minifigure of General Grievous do that. So yeah, I think this works out really well too. He's got the really kind of short legs to accentuate just how much of his bulk is taken up by his body, and he's pretty posable as well. You know, you can kind of angle his head off to the side there, and you can tip his body to one side. You can obviously move the legs around, and each of these arms can just move side to side here on this axis. So yeah, I think this works out really well, and I was having some fun with the accessories. He does have the machete in the show, and I think a knife in this hand, but I just wanted to give him stuff that was actually in the set, and also the spoon is just kind of a joke inclusion, because what's he going to do with a spoon? But yeah, I think this works out really well too, and just the whole kind of idea of cutting his throat, just having his head be able to just pop off like that. I think that adds a little bit of fun kind of play value. So this guy can be taken out pretty realistically, I think. So put it into the side, and then we have the desert skiff. So this was a really, really fun process to come up with this, because I was really trying to channel the designers and the way that they've been miniaturizing Star Wars vehicles in their official sets. And obviously the Slave One is ultra miniaturized, but it's also instantly recognizable, and it can do all the things that you want to do. It can fit a Boba Fett, it can fit a bounty in carbonite in the bottom, so it's perfect, So I wanted to be able to have a pilot in here that can hold on to the controls. I wanted to be able to have the main kind of layout of the deck be accurate, including this kind of central raise section, and I wanted to be able to place a figure in here to be mounting this gun turret, which is something that I have added. That's not part of the original design, but I added it for kind of the sake of play, so you can really imagine a fair kind of shootout between the Slave One and the skiff. So these parts on the side here, these little kind of fin vein things, whatever they are posable up and down like this, and then it's just sitting on this simple base, hovering like that. And then I tried to also be really faithful with including all the different railings and the little sections here, and using these horn or tail pieces to represent the way that this nice kind of railing detail kind of slopes down and connects in with the main ship there. I think that worked out really well. So yeah, this gun turret here is actually really easy to remove. It's just attached with this clip piece, so you can place it on either side of the ship, kind of clip it into any of these railing sections. That's the kind of cool thing about them being the bar construction, is they can just hold onto a clip piece anywhere, and so you can just place that where you think it looks good and war. So that's really fun. And then just here we can show you the simple 2 control sticks here and a little kind of view screen to see your enemies and such. So there's that. It's a really a pretty simple and scaled down version of the desert skiff, but I think for Star Wars fans, instantly recognizable, hopefully. And I think it was a good kind of inclusion for the sake of play into this set, to give the bad guys a bit more of a fighting chance. They're all just on foot in the show, and it's a bit unfair. They all get mowed down pretty easily. So yeah, there you go. There's the desert skiff. Okay, so here is the part of the video where I get up on my soapbox and I tell the most profitable and successful toy company in the world what I think they should be doing. So bear with me as I kind of give you my thoughts. Building this gave me a powerful wave of nostalgia, and the reason that it did that is because it reminded me of sets that existed when I was no longer, or not yet an AFOL, I was a kid fall, just a regular kid who loved to play with Lego, and I would get sets secondhand that we would find at flea markets and things like that, and they would have these huge base plates on them, and you would build some kind of a base structure on top, and it was a kind of a very similar idea to what I have here. So in this set I have a rocky base. There's a lot of open area where characters can be standing around. They can be placed in different areas. There's a large walkway section up here where there's just open room for characters to be able to have different scenarios play out, or even down here on the ground in the front of the castle, the characters can be staging some kind of a confrontation. There's just a lot of different areas to place figures that don't just include the very limited interior spaces. And I feel that something that LEGO has been relying on more and more lately is not giving kids room to play, but giving them very specific areas in which to pose a character in a very specific way that doesn't really allow for much room to think and grow creatively within the play set, and give you a lot of options basically to think about how to play with your toy. And I think that that's something that I have been missing without really realizing it. And I think that one solution for how LEGO could get back to that without increasing the cost of their sets massively, because let's keep it real, this would be like a $400 set if LEGO sold it today. This is probably larger in volume than the big Hogwarts set that we got a little while ago. In fact, most of those rock pieces for the base went into this. And it's probably larger than most of the recent wave of Hogwarts sets all combined. So, it's a chunky thing. But I think one thing that we could do, or that LEGO could do as a company, is to just bring back the idea of the specialized base. You know, it gives you this massive amount of heft that that those old sets had, that gave the impression that you were getting a lot more stuff with your purchases, because you were getting a very large area on which to stage what is effectively a fairly small playset, right? Which is just kind of sitting on top of a larger base. But having all of this room underneath to place things and additional items and be able to kind of bring the characters down and play on the ground level and then proceed up, it just gives it a much more dynamic feel to the different play patterns that you can have as a kid. So one thing that I really do miss, and I hope that LEGO at some point reintroduces, is specialized large base plate sets, or sets that have those in them, because I think that the design team today, as it exists, does such an incredible job with the new molds and the new pieces that we get, that they could design them in a way that makes them even more useful than they used to be, because there was actually a fair amount of limitation to those back in the day that I think they could probably eliminate today and have much more usable, large specialized base plates. So the second thing I would think would be a really cool thing for LEGO to do is to have more interconnectivity between sets. You know, having Boba Fett's throne room, having Boba Fett's ship, it feels like they want to go together, and the only way currently for you to do that is to just place them side by side and just imagine the rest of the scenario, you know? So I think for me, LEGO should be less afraid of selling sets modularly in pieces, and they're doing that with the Harry Potter line right now, which I like, on a much smaller scale. But why couldn't we get a Boba Fett's throne room and Rancor pit, and then why couldn't we also get a Boba Fett's palace, hangar bay / guard tower that then combines into one set, or three sets or four sets, and having the kind of mindfulness of how all of these things can be connected together, so that you can create something that feels cohesive. Even in the 2010 wave, where you had the throne room or the palace and the Rancor pit that fit together, they still didn't really fit together that well. It was still a little bit awkward in the way that it was thought out, because you had kind of the tower was hanging off to the side. It didn't really connect in the way that I would want it to. I actually had that set, and a lot of that went into this. And I realized that LEGO doesn't have access to all of the episodes of television shows and things ahead of time. They get a small sampling of what's going to be included, so that's what they have to kind of base everything off of. But I think over time it would be nice to add and expand onto the sets that we have, and build up something that feels more substantial, that you're buying in pieces. I think that's a really nice element of kids' toys, is when you have the ability to combine multiple ones and create something that's larger than the sum of its parts. And it just adds a lot of extra value. So those are the two things that I really love to see from LEGO, because I think the art of the classic large playset, the big Christmas present style or birthday present style of set that you would get as a kid and unbox, this really huge thing that is an all-encompassing single set, I think it's getting to be less and less common. I think a recent great example was the Daily Bugle skyscraper set. It was fantastic, and it had everything that you need in it in one box, and I really would encourage LEGO to keep going with that, and to expand upon that by having small, medium, and large sets be able to combine into something that is akin to what you're seeing here. I think that that's just something that I would love to see. I would love for kids to be able to get their hands on, and that would really create the powerful feeling of nostalgia that I had putting this together. So that was all. Those are my kind of main feelings. I absolutely love the recent direction that LEGO has gone in, and by recent I mean in the last 10 or 15 years, where they've really started to focus on reusability and adding more details and more parts that are more universal, and it allows you to build so many more things, and it's actually allowed LEGO to be much more universal than it used to be, because there's only so many ways you can use a large base plate. But I do think that there is still a place for that, especially when you want to build something up like this, where just to build up this rocky section under the palace here, this is probably $150 or $200 worth of LEGO just to get this, and if they could eliminate a large chunk of that by having a single base plate piece, which on the secondary market might cost you $12 or $15, I think that that is something that could really, really help to improve the height and the presence of a lot of recent Lego sets, which people are increasingly grumbling are less value or less valuable. And I don't think that's really the case. I think that it's just that they don't seem as imposing as they once did. So yeah, that's just something to think about. Lego, if you're watching this, and I know you are, thanks again for watching and subscribing. Yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. You guys are doing an awesome job. And those are just some of my thoughts. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Do you think I'm way off base here? Do you think that Lego reintroducing some of those more classic playset elements back into the system would be a good thing? And if not, then yeah, let me know why. I love to hear you guys' thoughts. I read all the comments, even if I don't respond to every single one. And I really appreciate you going on this journey with me. If you do want to build this set, you can get the instructions at my Rebrickable page. You can see the link for that down in the description. And it will include, it will be labeled as a modification of Boba Fett's throne room. So if you have Slave 1, that's an optional add-on that you can put in there. I didn't include any of the super rare pieces, obviously, like the Han Solo in Carbonite or the Rancor, because obviously those are going to be really expensive on the secondary market. It's just the palace itself. So hopefully you guys get a kick out of that. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts again. Please do leave comments. They help the algorithm to know that you guys are engaging with my videos. And also it helps me to know what you guys think of what I'm doing. So since there's no more dislikes, you can just leave your displeasure in the form of a comment. So thank you guys again so much. I'll see you on the next video, and may the Force be with you.